A few months ago, the Security Ministry for China advised the officials in the Communist Party at the highest level, including Xi Jinping, that they must prepare for physical conflict with the United States. Scary thought. Well, today I bring you escalation. Army Guard begins to reorganize force into 8 divisions to prepare for possible fights with Russia and China. Great. Now, this could be nothing. Possible fights doesn't mean actual fights, but I'll tell you what, man. We've been hearing it over and over again. I'm gonna say the phrase. You know what's coming. Thucydides' trap. People have been scared that there will be a war with China and the U.S. for years now, probably for quite some time, as we've seen China rise in the ranks. China has been preparing. There have been some confrontations, not physical confrontations, but some boats and stuff and some posturing, some saber rattling. Donald Trump issuing sanctions. China has been preparing. They've been doing they've been doing landing drills on beaches. I wonder why. They've been expanding in the South China Sea. Yes, war is a real possibility, and now we are preparing. Stars and Stripes reports the Army National Guard will move most of its brigades under the command of its 8-division headquarters as it reorganizes its fighting formations to give the force more combat power and some soldiers new career opportunities. The guard move will mark a substantial increase in the number of fully manned divisions that the Army can deploy, as only the service's 10 active duty divisions are now filled out with subordinate units, said Lieutenant General Daniel Hokanson, the director of the Army National Guard. The increase to 18 complete Army divisions comes at a time when service officials believe a major conflict with a near-peer rival, namely Russia or China, would require the employment of full divisions, he said. For the last 2 decades, the Army has focused on its smaller brigade combat teams as its primary fighting elements for counterterrorism operations and deployment focused on assisting the forces of other nations. When you look at the 2018 National Defense Strategy and competition among near-peer competitors, that great power competition, there is a potential for large-scale combat operations, and it could actually be division-level fights. Oh, man. I'm sorry, dudes. I think war is coming. Everything we're seeing, I can only wonder this. If there was a red flag, this is a giant red flag. But let me tell you, if there was a red flag that conflict was coming, perhaps it's the gigantic communist red flag flying from these ships that are sailing around Taiwan and trying to put pressure on American, military operations. The National Defense Strategy, crafted by former Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, guides the Pentagon on future planning, placing the potential for major conflict with rivals China and Russia as the nation's primary national security threat. For the 2 decades prior, the military has focused almost exclusively on fighting transnational terrorist organizations, which the strategy defined as a lesser threat than those posed by nation-state competitors. The Army National Guard now has 8 headquarters elements stationed in Virginia, Texas, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Kansas, Indiana, California, and New York, which are each made up of about 300 or so soldiers. Some have established relationships with subordinate units, but none are manned in the way the regular Army has built its divisions, which boasts about 20,000 soldiers. Here we can see a photo. U.S. Army soldiers assigned to Bravo Battery 1st Battalion, 119th Field Artillery Regiment, Michigan Army National Guard, fire an M777 155mm howitzer as part of a direct fire training exercise during Northern Strike 20, Camp Grayling, Michigan. This is kind of a badass photograph, I tell you what. That's cool. After studying the formations, Hokanson found the Army Guard had plenty of brigades and battalions to staff those divisions, which would allow the formations to train together and establish critical bonds should they be needed to deploy together into combat. The actual division alignments have yet to be finalized this week. Officials notified key lawmakers and stakeholders in the 54 U.S. states and territories that host Army Guard formations about the plans, Guard official said. They will require governors and other top state leaders to agree to partnerships with some units falling under the control of headquarters in other states. But Hokanson said the new alignment will have no impact on the governors and state adjutant generals' control of the forces assigned to their home states, He also said the National Guard has not asked Congress to provide additional funding for the changes. The plan calls for more brigades to align with other divisions in their general regions of the nation. In one example, Hokanson said New Mexico's 1 to 200th Infantry Battalion would become part of the 41st Infantry Brigade Combat Team based in Oregon, which would become part of with the 41st Infantry Division based in California. Okay, I got to slow down. I don't know a whole lot about how any of the military ranking, naming, battalion, all that stuff works. So probably people watching know way better than I do, and you can comment. But if this is the Army National Guard and they're preparing for a conflict with Russia or China, I mean, these are guys who stay, for the most part, in the U.S., right? Is there concern potentially that there will be a homeland conflict? I don't think that's ever really happened before, at least in modern history, right? We got too many guns, right? We got armed militias. I guess maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. So let's move down. They say, quote, so if you've got a lieutenant colonel or sergeant major out there in New Mexico, and one of them is absolutely, potentially the best battalion commander or senior non-commissioned officer in the entire division right now, really wouldn't matter. There's no opportunity for them to advance, Hokanson said. This would provide us the ability to better manage our talent across the National Guard by providing opportunities to those officers and NCOs that demonstrate the greatest potential and capability. We then give them the potential for opportunities beyond where they might normally get if they just stayed in their home state. He said he hopes to have all the National Guard divisions established in the coming months and reach initial operating capability, meaning they have trained enough together to be certified as minimally effective to deploy and fight as a unit by October 1st, 2021. Mark those dates, man. I don't think we're going to see anything right now. There's a slow roll. People look at history, and I talk about this, every so often. People look at history and it's a condensed view. It's a condensed lens. You'll see a story. I mean, did you know that I think the American Revolution took place over 20 years? There was somebody who was born after, they started talking about the potential for independence and the conflict started, that ended up fighting in the Revolutionary War later on. But when we look at history, a lot of people assume this stuff happened essentially overnight. It didn't. Right now, ranks are forming. In India, China and Pakistan are forming ranks on the border, which according to surveillance drone footage, satellite, they think that China and Pakistan are preparing for a pincer attack on India, striking from two fronts to spread their forces thin and hurt India. Australia apparently has now said they're no longer neutral. We have joined forces with Australia's naval, powers. It looks like we're getting ready for a serious international conflict. And it makes me wonder about everything we're seeing here in the US. I've said it before, but just to quickly give you the context. When people move out of these cities, 500,000 people from New York, we're decentralizing our economy. When the economy tanks, we are getting rid of non-essential functions and then slowly restoring with only essential functions. This helps us streamline our economy for essential functions, realign people to be working only essential jobs, and decentralizes them in the event that major cities get attacked. Also, people are buying lots of guns. Guns are hard to come by. I kid you not. My local gun store stripped bare. They got very little. They got very little inventory. Whether it's intentional or not, it seems like all of these things are lining up for major international conflict. So we see it from China. We see it here from Stars and Stripes, 8 new battalions. Here's a quote. "We never want to fight," he said. So, let me make sure. This is from Hokanson. "The goal is to prevent conflict. But if that fight does come, he wants the Army Guard soldiers ready to deploy as a full division that has spent time working together." Okay, here's another quote. "When you go out on the playground and everyone picks players and you just go versus having a team, and you may only practice once a month and 2 weeks over the summer, but over the course of months and years, you know your strengths and weaknesses, you've worked together, and as a team, you would play much better together," Hokanson said. "That's what we're looking at with this. Sure, let me tell you something. If we really were gearing up for war, this is exactly the right way to go about announcing it. If they came out and said, we expect full-on military conflict with China and Russia, thus we are doing this, people would panic. They say, no, look, it's a maybe. We want to be ready. We're doing training exercises. We're gearing up, creating new opportunities. So then people say, okay. You don't want mass panic, but you do want to entertain the idea to, gradually introduce what's to come. If they came out and said, America, Donald Trump was like, America, war with China is coming in the next year. Everybody get ready. People would flee. They'd quit their jobs. The economy would grind to a halt. So you do it slowly and gradually. And we're already seeing people flee. New jobs, new guns, new homes, decentralization. To me, looks like we're gearing up for war. But maybe it's just all of these things I'm seeing, right? It could just be that I'm looking for it's my confirmation bias, and this could be totally normal. But they're saying it, so you do what you got to do. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. on this channel. Thank you so much for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.